Hello, I'm Oskar Sherlief and you're watching the news from Kazakhstan. The cabinet intends to apply emergency measures to hold back the skyrocketing food prices. Costs of some products have jumped recently as high as 30%. Nevertheless, the regulation will only concern the socially significant products.
Kazakh MPs will have to decide whether to allow the government to dictate the food pricing policies. The bill has already sent to the lower chamber, and if it will be passed, the chamber will be able to influence the prices of socially important goods, such as flour, sugar, meat, cereals and vegetables. Their prices have recently jumped by over 30%.
The population is provided with unprecedented support by the head of state through the raise of all social benefits such as pensions and wages. Our main issue is to make sure people are able to buy essential goods and basic services at normal prices.
In 4 months, food prices have more than doubled compared to the same period last year.
Fruits and vegetables are very expensive. We don't know on what to save anymore, and some people even have to split one package of Chinese noodles for 3 days. Prices are growing for everything. You cannot survive without meat, and where is meat, there are vegetables, and all that is very expensive.
The reasons for the skyrocketing prices are the seasonal factors, depletion of the last year reserves and imports of fruits and vegetables at already elevated prices. The government is once again talking about the lack of storage facilities for vegetables, fruits and grains. Cabinet, fearing meat deficit, is considering the introduction of import quotas. 110 tons will be imported at the quota of 15%. The cabinet also dictates the new rules to monopolists. From now on, tariffs cannot be raised until the stabilization of food prices. In addition, ministers have to also think about stopping the inflation. It is likely officials will also have to reduce public spending.
According to experts, the authorities use administrative but not marketing tools in their struggle with the petroleum crisis, thus placing the entire economy under the threat of a collapse.
In the early May, the authorities have announced the rise of fuel prices by hundredths of a cent. This, however, is only the beginning of a prolonged appreciation, and experts claim that this could lead to unexpected results, especially with the start of a full operation of the customs union in the beginning of July.
The fact that we should have coordinated positions with Russia may cause a substantial 15% price jump for fuel and light oil products. The multiplier effect here will lead to the overall inflationary process.
According to Shestakov's data, the rising oil prices will once again lead to the unsanctioned outflow of fuel from the country, which means that the deficit for the domestic market is inevitable. The increase in price by 1/100th of a cent is necessary to compete with the pricing policies of Russia.
Should we depend on Russia if we import 40% of fuel from there? It is important to remain adequate.
The head of the Independent Automobile Union, Eduard Edokov, believes it is impossible to completely avoid fuel smuggling to Russia by price increase alone, especially since the cost of petroleum products is 15% higher there.
I believe the rise by 1/100th of a cent is just a small step, but not the last one. Usually the price of fuel and lubricants grows during the sowing campaigns, but this time we see the first signs of it during the spring.
Edokov is confident that drivers will have to stand for the entire economic vertical of Kazakhstan. The transport component is a weighty part of the pricing, so the rising cost of fuel could lead to the cost increase of the entire food market.
Another reason for the rising prices is the month-long isolation from Kyrgyzstan. The authorities of the neighboring country fear that the closed border might soon lead to a social explosion. Apparently, Kazakhstan also faces the consequences of the recent unrest in Kyrgyzstan.
The recent political events in Kyrgyzstan have affected the economic situation in Kazakhstan. The governor of the Jambul region reported on Tuesday during the government session about the rise of food prices in the border regions. Namely, the prices have jumped for fruits and vegetables traditionally imported from the neighboring country in spring and summer.
Usually during this time of the year we have imported potatoes from Kyrgyzstan, but now their prices have doubled due to the closed borders.
The deterioration of the economic situation is also observed in Kyrgyzstan due to the border situation. The problem is not only food security, as the new interim government sees a possibility of a social explosion.
If the borders will remain closed for another couple of months, Kyrgyzstan will face a social explosion and the consequences will be disastrous for the economy.
The border remains closed since April 7th, when the mass riots followed by the change of power took place in the neighboring country. Diplomats complained that the months of the economic blockade affected the foreign trade of Kyrgyzstan.
We are interrelated and we understand that the border affects the economic development.
Kyrgyz interim government asked Kazakh authorities to open the border, and it was expected that the process could begin as soon as May 11th. However, on Tuesday, Kazakh frontier guards reported that the border remains closed for now.
Last week, 3 Kazakh MPs proposed granting Nursultan Nazarbayev the status of the nation's leader, which will also make him immune from any criminal liability. As of Tuesday, the country's officials appear to still have no opinion on the matter, refusing to comment on the situation. At the same time, political scientists have trouble predicting what will win in the end, common sense or the hidden interests of the ruling clan.
Apparently, government officials do not want to become leaders of opinions about the recent parliamentary ideas, thus they chose not to give any comments on the matter.
Write to my blog. Let's go down and talk. Can you answer a question? I already commented on the customs code.
Nevertheless, 3 MPs believe the role of President Nursultan Nazarbayev should be embedded in history, and he also must avoid any criminal liability. This is not to say that the parliamentarians have doubts about the impeccability of the head of state. The amendments are a necessary measure, as the status needs to be consolidated in the law.
The implementation of the bill will not lead to negative socio-economic and legal implications and will not bring any additional financial expenditures of the state budget.
According to the logic of the MPs, the amendments are not a revolutionary idea, but rather a necessity, and nothing should change in the country after they will be enacted. Although the society believes nothing will change only for the MPs.
The MPs emphasized that they came up with the idea on their own without consulting with the ruling party, government or president's administration. I do not believe them. We have a pocket parliament, so they had to have numerous consultations, even at the initial stages of this project. I believe it is sad when the leader of the nation is created artificially. How can we draw comparisons with Atatürk, for example, if the leader of the nation will be elected through a fake referendum? What historical evaluation are we talking about?
Other member states of the OSCE, chaired this year by Kazakhstan, have not responded to the matter yet.
All mass media comments are provided by the head of the press center, and he is currently in Astana. Most likely there will be no comments because we are an international organization and we do not interfere in the internal affairs, particularly legal ones.
Nevertheless, independent experts believe that Europe is silent not because it has nothing to say, but because sometimes silence is golden.
It should be clear to everyone that Kazakhstan is seen by foreign countries as a raw material supplier. President Nazarbayev and his policies are convenient for others to use Kazakhstan as a raw material base. Therefore, all anti-democratic initiatives could be denounced in speeches, but Western countries will not actually attempt to change the situation.
In the meantime, just a week has passed, but the MPs are ready to discuss the constitutional amendments where the first president is already named the leader of the nation.
Meanwhile, the number of Nazarbayev's opponents who demand the president's resignation through a hunger strike reduced on Tuesday. One of the protesters had to withdraw from the action due to the worsening health condition.
By the
11th day of the protest, the hunger strikers have lost another supporter. Zhanebek Imamazirov from East Kazakhstan needed urgent medical attention due to frequent blackouts. Now he will require to undergo a course of rehabilitation.
He was occasionally losing consciousness and had constantly low blood pressure. He was sick every time he bended.
Imamazirov is already the second person forced to give up the hunger strike following Jusup Yergaliyev. 6 people are still protesting in Almaty, demanding the resignation of President Nursultan Nazarbayev, as well as fair parliamentary elections. In total, the list contains 6 demands concerning the rights and freedoms of citizens.